Welcome. This is not an anti-meat video. We've all heard the arguments against meat, and yet in the EU and US, only between 1 and 6% of people don't eat it. Meat is just too tasty, too good at being the center of dinner, too much part of culture to give up, and this will likely not change soon. So instead of trying to convince you to become vegetarian, we want to explore the question, is there a way to reduce the negative impact meat has on our bodies and the environment without giving it up? Is there such a thing as sustainable meat? Or even healthier meat? Humans have been eating meat for millions of years, but it has not always been the same. Our ancestors ate mostly whatever they could hunt and catch, from bugs to mammoths, but meat was only an occasional feast, not a staple food. Things changed with the domestication of animals about 10,000 years ago. Now humans could access meat more regularly. Still, it remained relatively expensive and not something people had every day. In medieval Europe, meat was mostly a privilege of the rich, but in the last century, meat production has exploded. Between 1960 and today, meat production has quadrupled, and chicken went from rare luxury to the most consumed meat in the world. Industrial animal farming made meat abundant, cheap, and part of almost every meal. Today, we eat more meat than at any point in history. This is a problem because producing meat is not very efficient. Most of the food animals eat is used to keep them alive, and only a small fraction becomes meat. On average, it takes 7 kilograms of feed to produce 1 kilogram of beef, 4 kilograms for pork, and 2 kilograms for chicken. This means animals need a lot of food, and most of it comes from crops like corn and soy, so meat takes up a lot of farmland. In fact, 77% of all agricultural land is used for animals, either as pasture or to grow feed. That's almost 4 billion hectares, an area larger than North and South America combined. But animals only produce 18% of the world's calories and 37% of its protein. This is extremely inefficient. If we used all this land to grow food for humans directly, we could feed an extra 3.5 billion people. Meat also uses a lot of water. Producing 1 kilogram of beef requires about 15,000 liters of water. Pork needs 6,000 and chicken about 4,000. And then there's greenhouse gases. Animals, especially cows, produce methane, a greenhouse gas 28 times more powerful than CO2. Altogether, livestock is responsible for around 15% of global greenhouse gas emissions, more than all the world's cars, planes, and ships combined. From a climate perspective, meat is a disaster. Beef is the worst. Producing 1 kilogram of beef creates about 60 kilograms of greenhouse gases. Pork and chicken are better, but still much worse than most plant-based foods. So if we want to fight climate change, reducing meat consumption is essential. But what about health? Is meat bad for you? Well, yes and no. Meat is a great source of protein, vitamins, and minerals, and humans are well adapted to eat it. But eating a lot of red meat, especially processed meat like sausages and bacon, is linked to higher risks of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and certain cancers. The World Health Organization classifies processed meat as carcinogenic and red meat as probably carcinogenic. White meat, like chicken, is generally considered healthier, and fish is even better. So should we stop eating meat altogether? That would be the most effective way to reduce its negative impact. But as we said, it's unlikely most people will do that. So maybe we can find a compromise. Meat that is less damaging to the environment and healthier for us. What could that look like? First, different meats have very different impacts. Beef is the worst by far, followed by lamb, pork, and then chicken. So eating less beef and more chicken makes a big difference. Switching from beef to chicken reduces your carbon footprint from meat by about 80%. Another option is to eat more fish. Fish generally have a much lower environmental impact than land animals, and they're very healthy. But overfishing is a big problem, so we need to be careful here. Then there are new alternatives. Plant-based meats, like burgers made from soy or peas, have become increasingly popular. They try to mimic the taste and texture of meat, and while they're not perfect, they're getting better. Their environmental impact is much lower than real meat, and they don't have the same health risks as red or processed meat. Even more exciting is cultured meat. Real meat grown from animal cells in a lab. It's still very expensive and not widely available, but it could one day provide meat without the need to raise and kill animals. And and with a much smaller environmental footprint. Another approach is to simply eat less meat. You don't have to go vegetarian to make a big difference. If people in rich countries reduce their meat consumption by half, it would free up enormous amounts of land, cut greenhouse gas emissions, and improve public health. Even small changes, like eating meat only a few days a week or choosing smaller portions, add up. In the end, the problem is not that we eat meat, but that we eat so much of it. Meat has been an important part of human culture and nutrition for millions of years, and it's not going away anytime soon. But if we want to protect our planet and our health, we need to find ways to make it more sustainable. This could mean eating less meat overall, switching to meats with lower impact, embracing alternatives, or supporting new technologies like cultured meat. There's no one-size-fits-all solution, but every step helps. And while meat may never be truly sustainable, it can become a much smaller problem than it is today.